and put you guys on the switch, and then see. Well, that does that. Let me ping Roberto.
Roberto
Heron.
Fun impeachment stuff today. Not that we have to talk about it on the show, of course.
No idea, actually.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, right, so we're good. We're live.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2. Good day, Internet.
Good day, Internet.
Yo, Internet. It's a good day.
Sure is.
I'm gonna wind up. I'm gonna party this weekend. That's what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Going. You're turned down for nothing.
Oh, that's right. That's right. It's it's a mermaid. Oh wait, unicorn party.
And
by
is
that,
that because you're a billionaire?
It does not mean I nor anyone at the party will be billionaires. It's because a month and a half ago, when her mom was planning the party, my 3-year-old niece was into unicorns. Of course, now that the party is here, she's into mermaids. So what are you going to do?
I don't know. Unicorn mermaid is a pretty cool mashup.
Mermicorn.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You're a special mermaid.
Kristen, her mom said.
She's also a billionaire.
Right. You could go 3 ways. It's amazing. What is a mermicorn? Is that like 2 billion?
It might be. Yeah. Yeah. Remember when
Series A and Series B?
Or is that when
is like a big deal? Now it's like lots of.
Or is that when Jason Momoa gets an attack and
when Jason Momoa is an investor in a billion-dollar company? It's a mermicorn.
It's a mermicorn. And you just really want to be in that board meeting.
Yeah, you do.
Hey, Jason. Hi.
Yes. Be our friends. Be our
Can
friends.
I touch your pectoral muscles?
Okay,
you're
that's
so
kind of
tall.
weird. Normally, you just start with the biceps because
you touch them respectively.
Well, I assume I know that Jason Momoa wouldn't show up at this board meeting without a shirt on, but I'm assuming that he goes everywhere without his shirt on because he's Aquaman.
He lives in the water. You know, what does he need a shirt for?
No, he was on Graham Norton a couple weeks back, wearing clothes, wearing fully clothed. Yeah,
it's good.
Bummer. Ooh.
He is like best friends with Emilia Clarke. You could tell that they were just buddies.
Really?
Like not some like there's something going on between. Not even like that.
No,
just like brother sister, like joking with each other and
so
teasing.
Cute.
Yeah,
that makes me happy.
No, and yeah, especially because they haven't worked together on Game of Thrones for many years now.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, gosh, he didn't last past season 2, right?
I don't think so. Yeah. That was it.
Yeah.
Oh, spoiler. Sorry if you've never seen Game.
Yes. Sorry. Whoops.
Yeah, R2B2.
6 years ago, Jason Momoa's character died.
He did wear a lot of clothes on Stargate Atlantis, so maybe that's
that's right. He was on that.
Oh yeah, that's what I know him from. When they cast him on Game of Thrones, I'm like, oh, the guy from Stargate Atlantis.
I mean, when we were talking about attractive people, and Shannon and I a couple of weeks ago were like, Jason Momoa. Yeah. It's not because I want him to be naked. Like that's not actually the goal. I just think he probably is very fit. I don't care if he's wearing clothes or not. That's great. I just want to hang out with him.
So wait a minute. Let me ask you this. So if he wasn't fit and he just let himself go, like, hey, I'm just gonna after Thanksgiving.
I mean, he's just an attractive person.
Yeah.
But I think part of it is like you're like a superhuman type thing. But I mean, you could be wearing sweatpants and a shirt.
What about
it's also demeanor,
fine. Yeah.
Right? It's not just that he is. Sculpted
it's
like a Greek god.
No, it's just that he seems chill. He seems like a chill dude.
No,
he's not just chiseled; he's also chill.
Chiseled and chill. You don't have to be naked, right? Just want to make that clear.
You don't have to take your clothes off to have a good time.
No, you don't. No.
Just leave a little something for the imagination.
Yeah.
Maybe it's better that way. What was that song anyway?
That's from.
I mean, I know the song, but like, and they drink some cherry wine. Yeah. Which is what is that even?
I have it. It's hold on.
Good day, cherry wine. Cherry wine always reminds me of like the really cheap wines that you get in a brown bag.
It's just sort of like sweet
Yeah.
and desserty. Yeah. Yeah.
Like Thunderbird. Thunderbird's not cherry though.
Jermaine Stewart.
Jermaine Stewart. I would not have remembered that. One Hit Wonder, I believe.
Yes.
I don't know if Jermaine had other hits.
I'm always careful with that appellation because a lot of times people are like, well, maybe on the pop charts, but those of us who follow him. I think Jermaine Stewart probably legitimately could carry that one.
Yeah. Well, and I definitely don't mean that's almost more like when I say one hit wonder, it's like the one hit I know, not necessarily Jermaine's only hit.
His next highest charting hit on the Hot 100 was "Say It Again."
Ooh, yeah, I don't know about.
Which got to number 27 in the U.S., number 7 in the U.K.
Oh, okay.
Although "Don't Talk Dirty to Me," he had a theme, didn't he?
He really did. Yeah.
"Don't Talk Dirty to Me"
clean, girls.
got to number 4 in Germany in 1988.
Huh. So I was thinking about.
He had a song on the Weekend at Bernie's soundtrack that did not chart.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, Weekend at Bernie's is not exactly known for its stellar
soundtrack.
Yeah. Ex-Girlfriend song. I was thinking about one hit wonders the other day because I do this. And there's a song from the 80s.
No. Jermaine Stewart died of AIDS-related liver cancer in 1997 at the age of 39.
Oh my gosh, that's so sad.
Yeah, that could be a reason of.
He hasn't created music.
His last hit was 1992, so he was definitely in a fallow period, but that could be why.
Jermaine, you know what? Sorry, man. You would have charted. You would have charted for many, many years to come. Liver.
Yeah.
Why can't I? This is tough.
Hello.
Hey, Robert Heron.
Robert Heron.
Standard caveat that we are live on Twitch, just so you know.
Sweet. Let me fire everything up here.
Yeah, how's it going?
Oh, actually, I'm on a VPN. I'm wondering if I should turn that off.
You don't have to turn VPN off to
have a good time.
The song was fine as is, including the cherry wine. Don't add your own lyrics.
I live on VPN. Let's see here.
Who's your provider for VPN?
Man, you gonna dox him? What the heck?
Yeah. What do I use? I use IPVanish.
I've used them before. I don't use them anymore, but they were good. I used them for a while.
Back in the day, they allowed you to anonymously sign up for their services, and they don't do that anymore. But still,
I use ExpressVPN these days. They just always work for me. I actually still use Private Tunnel also because with Private Tunnel you bought an amount of data and you just kept using it until it was gone. Then you'd buy more data. I haven't ever used it up. I bought it 2010. I think maybe 2012. I haven't used it.
What was that?
Sorry, I was listening to something.
You're gonna get us muted on Twitch.
I won't watch anymore.
Your reproduction's too close.
Bad for bandwidth. I found the song that I was thinking about.
Was it a Jermaine Stewart song?
No, it was not. It's a group called. Hold on a second. A group called.
Oh dear, can hear it again.
Yep. No, I paused it. Stacey Francis. And it's actually kind of confusing. So this is from 1991. I think the group is called Ex-Girlfriend, but then it says in parentheses Stacey Francis, and the song is Why Can't You Come Home? But the reason that I was looking it up is because during the song, this is just something I remember from being a kid, is like I don't know, after the chorus, she says, "You know what I'm saying? Because the ex-girlfriend ain't playing." And that's the only part of the song that I remember. And so it took me quite a bit of Google searching to find it, and I just found it.
Real quick, I want to thank Keep Sloan Weird for subscribing at Tier 1 for 3 months.
Hey, Sloan, keep it weird.
Yeah.
3 months streak.
Stay weird. I wonder if we should address the controversy that we've been avoiding, Sarah.
I mean, why not? Here we are.
Failed Access Memory wrote in from Australia claiming that you pronounced the card game spelled UNO as you know.
Oh.
As in,
no.
I'm going to win.
Yeah. Okay, so listen, you live in a backwards world. Everything's upside down. The toilet flushes the other way. So I get it, but
people
but
fall
no.
up. Yeah.
It's not it's Uno.
It's
Except
Uno.
their
You
advertisements.
go down to one card. Uno.
Although if you watch
Spanish.
the advertisements for
Yeah.
Uno in Australia, they pronounce it Uno. So,
Really?
Yeah.
There are advertisements for the card game?
Yeah.
So this
In
is a
Australia?
regionalized.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
We
I mean,
hear-
I've never seen a commercial for
I've
Uno.
never seen it, and I've only
so-
seen it in stores. And the
I
guy
feel
who
like I've
sold-
seen a commercial here for Uno, but I don't remember it. I don't remember it, so they must have called it Uno.
I mean, I kind of love that it would be Uno that I'm about to win, but I don't think that's correct.
Well, like certain.
Well, maybe it's correct in Australia,
Well, yeah, because it's again, what's up is down, what's right is left.
right? People fall upstairs.
That's yeah.
Gotta be
Is there
careful
an-
if you trip in Australia. You might
Sleep
end
all
up just
day,
floating
up
away.
all night.
Everyone gets allocated one kangaroo and a koala.
Right.
Is there
Here
an
in
IRC chat?
Here in the multilingual United States, we pronounce it Uno.
Uno. I did see that, and yeah, it's nice to know that the game is being enjoyed, no matter what you call it. It's a great game. Robert, when's the last time you played a game at Uno?
Or Uno.
Or Uno?
5-6 years ago. It's been a while, but it used to be a very regular occurrence with my parents and family members anytime we were traveling. It was like always somebody has a deck. There's probably one in the motorhome, probably one in the everywhere. There was a deck everywhere. So
It's a fun game. It's good to have a hand.
Back in 2000, so 19 years ago.
you guys have an IRC channel running or anything like that?
We have Discord.
We do have an IRC channel, but there aren't many people in there anymore.
Okay.
Most people are over in the Twitch chat at twitch.tv/popout/gooddayinternet/chat.
Or
It's
you can-
linked right at the top of the doc.
Oh, thank you so much.
Back in 2000, when Eileen and I first started dating, she said how much she loved Uno. And so I bought her Uno for the first Christmas present because we'd only been dating, 10 days.
10
at that
days.
point. Yeah, so I didn't want to overdo it. So I bought her Uno. It's like, oh, this is kind of a cute thing. And she loved it. She's like, oh, that's so sweet. I think we played Uno twice since then.
I played it a lot in grade school, but after that, it was like,
I played it a lot with my grandparents. My grandma loved playing Uno.
I love it. It involves cards, but they're not regular cards.
Why you got to make my grandma sound like that?
Log into Twitch.
I love Uno. They're not like cards.
Now you're getting closer. No, actually, the first was probably closer.
It's interesting. I'm trying to think of all the games I played, board games, card games. All I remember that sticks out of my head are Uno, Sorry, or Sorry, depending where you are.
Oh, I loved Sorry.
Yeah, I used to play Sorry with my other grandma. Different grandma. She loved
the game
Aggravation and Sorry.
The Game of Life.
Mom loved Game of Life.
Monopoly.
Nobody loved Monopoly.
I love Monopoly.
We played it all the time.
Long time.
In fact, the summer Return of the Jedi came out. My younger brother and I played a lot of Monopoly for some reason.
Were you hoping to make millions off George Lucas's early legacies?
No, it wasn't. There was no connection. I remember that summer. I remember that summer being like super excited about Return of the Jedi, and also
it was the same time that you.
also
I
playing
think
a lot of Monopoly.
When I first played Monopoly was with my dad, and you got your paper money, and it felt very adult to me, and I think what he was doing was always letting me win. by not being very strategic, So I was like, this is so far, I always win. And then playing Monopoly sort of, as a teenager with other friends where I was like, oh, like, I don't always win.
This is
kind of hard.
Not fun at all.
Stratego.
Yeah.
Stratego.
That was the other game we played a lot of.
We never played that at home. I liked Stratego, but I could never get it. No, I can't say it.
Oh, I've never even heard it.
I could never get anyone to play with me.
Oh, it's violent. It teaches all sorts of things.
I don't know why, but and board games are bigger than ever these days. Tabletop is huge. We don't play the board games as much anymore in our house.
You need more than, honestly, in my opinion, you need more than 2 people. At least 3.
I think that's part of it. Yeah. It's not quite as fun with only 2.
Also,
most games aren't.
It's kind of.
I've been playing a lot of chess lately.
Oh,
yeah?
I don't know why I got back into it, but I found a couple of apps that you can do right on your mobile.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And I found a couple of friends and just the random encounter. And that's a brutal game. It requires me just to sit there and think very carefully. Otherwise, I'm going to get my ass handed to me.
Remember in the 80s, there was play chess by mail where you would mail the other person. Like, these are my moves. And,
really?
I do want to kind of get a legitimate chessboard again and have it all laid out so I can physically look at that. Because sometimes I do better when I can actually stare at a board rather than a screen. But
last December, I played a chess game with the patrons.
Oh, cool.
The master level patrons would submit their move in comments, and then I would take a picture of the board. I would make my move in response, and then I'd take a picture of the board and post it, and we'd go from there.
I'm at about 50-50 win-loss right now with
that's not
friends
bad.
in the internet. So if I focus, I'm really good.
So it's actual people. It's not computer playing.
Yeah, I started with the computer first just to warm back up again. And then I found chess.com actually has a great little app that's free. You can check out. They have a premium version too, but it makes it easier to just find random players around the world. And you get ranked pretty quick, so you're not being stuck playing against grandmasters or things like that. So,
hello, Mr. Houstonov.
I don't mind playing against really good players, but I'd like to kind of have an idea before I walk into it.
Matched with Gary Kasparov.
Or Deep Blue.
He's not that good anymore. Trust us. Yeah, Deep Blue has an account. AlphaGo might be sucky at chess. Who knows?
Oh, Go. That was the one I played a lot of as a kid.
Yeah, I love playing Go. I never get a chance. I was playing Go on my phone for a while. There's a really good Go app that I like. But it's not as fun playing against the computer as it is playing against a person.
I forgot. Robert, I want to make sure, what did you want your title to be as we introduce you? Right now I have you as host of AVXL.
Calibrator extraordinaire. Video calibration expert.
Video calibration expert. I like that.
That's a good one.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what I do.
Everybody needs.
I know how to do that.
Dude. Yeah.
Just say calibration expert and let people guess what it is.
Were you part of the outages that were going up?
Power outages.
Power outage.
It did not affect the cities immediately right next to the bay. And so, at least in the South Bay area or the East Bay where I'm at, so it never even flickered.
Oh, that's right. I'm going to be in your hood this weekend at a partying with a 3-year-old.
Okay.
My niece is having her 3rd birthday party.
Well, that's a good time for all the
weird
adults.
flex, but okay, Tom. I'm going to be in your hood partying with a 3-year-old. What are you going to do about it, Robert?
What am I doing? I might be over at the Salesforce Tower, actually.
I don't know. If you're into unicorns, come on by.
Salesforce. Are they still located at...
They're Mermicorns now.
Mermicorns. Sorry. Yes, right.
Mermicorns.
Wait,
that's a mermaid unicorn hybrid.
The old Townsend building, or no?
You know, I don't really know. I see the building.
Well, it was.
I'm trying to think of what street it's on. Second?
Townsend.
Is it?
No. Townsend's
it's not Townsend.
Townsend was the old Tech TV office.
Yeah.
It was. I know that the company's gone through some hardships, but that was Zynga. Is it not Zynga anymore?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Zynga's gone.
Really?
They had their business card throwing event as everyone exited the building.
My gosh. I know what you're talking about. I remember that. I didn't do it.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
I know who did.
I
all
know
my
who
cards.
did too.
I think we could all
my
name
cards still.
one person.
I got three unopened boxes.
But apparently there's some Salesforce event next week, and they have a brand new Sony 4K projector, and they want me to get in there and make it
calibrate it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Projectors are tough.
Oh
They're
wait,
such
is
raw display devices.
Carrie Lean works over there?
She does. Yeah, she's worked for
Very cool.
Salesforce for several years. A good 5 years, I think, right now.
I like the building and the skyline.
Speaking of TVs, sort of, a friend of mine who's just kind of not so much in the news cycle as we are about hardware, sent me a link, and it was like, Samsung to debut modular TV at CES. And I was like, is this a 2-year-old story?
Yes.
But it's actually a new story. But it's the same thing. It's just bigger.
No, we actually covered that on DTNS. Is that they are going to announce it as shipping.
They had that product called the Wall as a demonstration.
So now they've actually that was just a prototype. Now at CES they're going to announce like this is an actual product that will be able to sell to people.
Sony has shown up a similar product.
It seemed like they were
the news. For us, the news is not that it's modular. The news is, remember the Wall?
It's actually a thing. Yeah.
They're going to actually have a shipping product supposedly. That's CES.
If you want the biggest, brightest screen, it's like 20 feet wide. Oh, it'd be like $1 million for something like that, or $800,000. But
speaking of, when we get to your segment in DTNS, Robert, we have about 6-7 minutes. So we'll just kind of, I'll just throw it to you to be like, all right, a lot of people are going to be buying TVs soon. What do they look for? And we'll take it from there.
This whole month is turned into Black Friday for TVs, at least. It started like a week ago or 2 weeks ago with the pricing, and I'll get into that. It
used to be Christmas came earlier every year. Now it's Black Friday comes earlier every year.
It's not even that one day anymore.
It's like the week. Yeah.
I blame Singles Day.
It's a good one though. That's the biggest shopping day in the world.
Yes.
I believe it.
I got to write my little coming up tease here. Should Apple pivot to advertising?
They don't already? I don't know anything about Apple, really. I like their products.
Have you what's that new monitor that they have that came out?
The one with the $1,000 stand?
You mean the one we talked about earlier this week?
Yes, and
coming out in December.
Yes.
Oh, the mini LED iPad?
The Display XD.
They're claiming they had some new display tech, and they were being.
If you just look at Tuesday's lineup, Roger, you'll find the exact name.
Excellent.
Robert
Herron.
We have the sun out today. It is beautiful here.
Sun's out, guns out.
Oh, it is.
It actually, I'm in the Presidio in San Francisco right now, and it is it's warm.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's a real nice day up here.
It's 72.
I had to go to Ryan Vance's house. I left a piece of calibration equipment in his living room.
Yeah, down in Lower Haight. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a great little place down there.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, down there, south of me. Because I'm in Northern California now. I just moved to Northern California.
The real
LA,
north.
That's right. Yeah.
The true north.
Yeah. Oh, down there in the city.
The Bay Area, Northern California. I'm like, not really. I mean,
you're like beyond the wall up there, Sarah.
It's pretty central, but then you could say that about the Midwest too, where I'm like, on a map, it's like not really mid anything, but okay.
Pro Display XDR. That's it.
Whatever.
The Midwest was coined when the Appalachians was the eastern border of the West, right? It was the people who lived on the coast,
right.
And then across the Appalachians was the West, and the Midwest was like on the way to the Mississippi, and then past the Mississippi was the far West, which is hilarious now because when you look on a map, you're like, most of the country is past the Mississippi. But most of the country wasn't past the Mississippi back then because it was mostly French and Spanish. We're living in Mexico. What was once Mexico.
Indeed. May I go back there soon?
I see.
Oh, I'm using the name Demi Dude in the Twitch chat. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I forget that was my.
That's your Twitch handle?
I guess so.
Hey, I signed up for that new social network, WT Social, and you don't get to pick you just use your name. It doesn't give you a chance to pick a username.
Oh.
I'm kind of like, oh, well, I mean, I guess that's a good idea, and it's the same as Facebook, but.
Yeah, it's the whole sort of like, be yourself.
Yeah, I know,
thing.
but I was like, oh,
I know, handles are fun.
I've had
I
the same
enjoy them.
handle since the 90s, for goodness sake.
I mean, I only have one of two. It's either Sarah Lane or for some reason somebody beats me, which is rare, but it happens. Then it turns into Sarah Lane Rocks.
Oh, yeah, right.
That's the only two things I ever am.
And so WT Social will work out just fine for you because you'll be Sarah Lane.
Yeah.
I don't know how they're doing it if you have more than one. Like right now, I'm just wt.social/u/Tom-Merritt. Like, what happens when the next Tom Merritt signs up? Because there are a bunch of us.
Tom Merritt too.
Yeah, I wonder if that's how they do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just do it by year. Tom Merritt 2019.
Where'd that come from?
But then, what do they do the next one after that?
Oh, the next year, Tom Merritt.
No, the next person who signs up after
Tom Merritt 3
on the same day.
Tom Merritt.
You can't do year.
2019 _2.
What if you have 10 Tom Merritts sign up all on the same day?
Tom Merritt official. Tom Merritt best. I am Tom Merritt.
_ battle royale.
People get creative.
Well, no, that's the point though. Is you're not allowed to pick the username. It's just assigned to you.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Conspiracy.
Yeah.
So really.
Yeah, because it's like if you're not lying about your name, I mean, you're gonna have to sign up.
Well, I'm sure you'd still be called Tom Merritt, but the link.
But there would have to be
profile.
But yeah, to me, you'd think that there would be like a little, asterisk or something by, a name being like, this is not the Tom Merritt that you're actually.
I don't know. Maybe I'm the first Tom Merritt to sign up. Then we'll find out.
The first Tom Merritt.
I think you might be.
It'll be interesting if anybody out there signs up. I put links to sign up in our Slack and our Discord. And if you get a URL for your profile that's not exactly your name, let us know. Be curious. You don't have to sign up. I have friends. Oh, look at that. I already have friends. James Thatcher, Kenji Yoshino, and Tony Glass already have signed up using the links that I put in Discord and Slack, and therefore they are classified as my friends. They're also the only people following me. And I'm following them. Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Since I invited them with the link, I auto follow them. I also am following Jimmy Wales. I didn't ask for that.
It's like MySpace Tom.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy is not my friend.
I actually saw MySpace Tom. I won't call out the dating network that I was on, but I was on one. MySpace Tom was on it. And it was like the same profile, the same profile picture.
Was it like?
And I was sort of like, I don't know if this is a joke or if it's really him, because it was a real person. Account? Yeah, I couldn't tell. I was like,
was the tagline "Let's be friends"?
I'm just gonna not do that. I don't remember. I was just like, it's MySpace Tom, looking for love.
I remember when I saw the first "Tom is not my friend" meme. I kind of took it personally for a half second. I was like, well, why? Oh, MySpace Tom. Okay.
Yeah. I wonder. I don't know. I'm sure MySpace Tom is a really nice person. But I always thought, for a while, I didn't realize that it was a real person. I thought it was just a joke.
Well, the other thing,
But it is a real person.
I signed up for MySpace before they started the practice of assigning Tom as your friend. So I didn't have him as my friend on MySpace. So when I first saw the meme, I was like, what? What are y'all talking about?
Yeah. Oh, MySpace. What a time.
Tom.
Top 9. What a time. I actually really hated MySpace.
I only got on it because Dan Hewer told me to get on it. It's like, all right.
I liked Orchid.
Dan Hewer told you to jump off the Golden Gate Bridge. Did you do that too?
But he didn't, so I'm still here.
Oh, right. Good. Well, that's good. Orchid? I don't think I was ever on Orchid.
Was that the one that was super popular in Brazil?
Yeah.
It was Google's social network. It got super popular in Brazil, but really didn't take off anywhere else.
I think it was also popular in like Indonesia. There were a couple of markets where it was
mildly popular.
Yeah.
You know, what is
Friendster
popular,
was
though?
huge in the Philippines. Yes, doing the show is also popular.
Maybe I'm
and it's also huge in the Philippines.
Correct.
I believe we may be. And salamat for that. Filipinos, you're the best. All right, here we go. In 3, 2. Coming up on DTNS, should Apple pivot to advertising? Plus, Twitter's new political advertising rules are spelled out, and Robert Heron tells us the best TVs you might want to be eyeballing for Black Friday and stuff. This is the Daily Tech News for Friday, November 15th, 2019 in Los Angeles. I'm Tom Merritt.
And from next to a beer tap, I'm Sarah Lane.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
And we're very happy to welcome Robert Heron, video calibration expert and host of AV Excel, back to the show. Robert, how's it going?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you, Tom.
It's good to have you back. We're going to get some good TV buying advice, as always, just good TV knowledge in general from Robert here in a minute. Sarah, you're not in your normal studio location.
I am not at Studio Redwood. No, I realize anybody who's listening to the audio version is like, next to a beer tap, but I actually am. Hey, it's Friday after all. But yes, I am on location doing some work, but happy to be on the show as usual.
We were talking about all kinds of good things on Good Day Internet just now, just yakking away about all kinds of cool stuff. If you want to hang out with us and talk about things, sometimes tech-related, sometimes not, you got to be part of Good Day Internet. Become a member at patreon.com/DTNS. Let's start with a few tech things you should know.
Huawei's foldable Mate X device went on sale in China over the morning of November 15th for 16,999 yuan, roughly $2,400. Due to ongoing trade restrictions, however, the device doesn't ship with the Google Play Store or any US-made chips. Huawei has also not stated if the Mate X will be available for sale outside of China. In addition, Huawei CEO Richard Yu made a Weibo post teasing a MatePad event for November 25th.
Apple removed all 181 vaping-related apps from the iOS App Store. In a statement to Axios, Apple said it is updating its App Store review guidelines to forbid apps that encourage or facilitate the use of vaping products, citing a report from the U.S. CDC that found vaping devices a public health crisis and a youth epidemic. Apple previously stopped accepting new apps related to vaping back in June and never allowed for direct sales of vape cartridges through apps.
In an interview with The Verge, Microsoft's head of gaming, Phil Spencer, said that he expects to launch its xCloud game streaming service in 2020 in the US. Spencer also said that the company plans to integrate xCloud with Xbox Game Pass in 2020 as well, bringing game streaming to Windows 10 PCs. While currently only confirmed to run on Android on mobile, General Manager of xCloud, Catherine Gluckstein, confirmed that the company is building prototype iOS apps and working with Apple to launch on the platform as well. Microsoft also plans to expand xCloud Preview to Canada, India, Japan, and Western Europe next year.
Amazon will formally challenge the U.S. Department of Defense's decision to award Microsoft the Joint Enterprise Defense Infrastructure, or GDI, contract. Amazon will file a complaint with the U.S. Court of Federal Claims. A spokesperson for AWS said numerous aspects of the GDI evaluation process contained clear deficiencies, errors, and unmistakable bias. It strikes me that could also apply to Phantom Menace.
Google revealed that an experiment rolled out to the stable channel of Chrome has caused some browsers access through virtual machine environments to display white screens and leave the browser unresponsive. The experiment switched on a flag that enabled a new web contents occlusion feature, which suspends Chrome tabs when other apps are moved on top of those tabs. The experiment had been in beta for about 5 months without reported issues. Google has now rolled back the experiment.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about a brand new company in the chip space. 3 former Apple semiconductor executives, Gerard Williams III, Manu Gulati, and John Bruno, have founded a company called Nuvia. NUVIA. The company is developing a processor called Phoenix and wants to take what they learned designing low-power chips for mobile devices and make a faster, more power-efficient, more secure chip for data centers. If that sounds familiar, Qualcomm, Marvell, Ampere, all have been aiming to do exactly the same thing and try to take a little business away from Intel and AMD. But Nuvia brings in a lot of experience. Not that Qualcomm doesn't have a ton of experience, but we've got some pretty smart people here. William spent 9 years at Apple as chief architect of Apple's central processors and systems on a chip. Gulati spent 8 years at Apple working on mobile systems on a chip, and Bruno spent 5 years at Apple in the platform architecture group. Plus, Gulati and Bruno also worked at Google after they left Apple before coming over to Nuvia. So they're not a shoe-in, but it just shows how using mobile processors, power efficiency to provide secure platforms for data centers is something that people think is going to be a bountiful place to make some money, because a lot of people are trying to figure out how to crack that.
Yeah, and the fact that, again, like you said, these are industry veterans. They could have worked lots of places, but they have come together to say, we can do this better than what is already going on in other places. If you're talking about low power chips for mobile devices, I mean, this is definitely not something that is a company that doesn't exist yet. But I wonder what they might achieve that isn't already possible with some of the big guns.
Well, right now it's usually, can I get enough power out of this mobile chip to make it worth not buying Intel or AMD? And it's close. So Nuvia must think they have some ideas of how to engineer and how to architect that so that it's compelling, because data centers, no matter who you talk to, data centers are the fertile ground for money. We've heard it in the earnings reports recently. Samsung says, well, we're going to sell a lot of semiconductors to data centers. So things are looking up for us. Data centers are going to be buying a lot of chips, memory chips, storage chips, and the processors. And if these processors are cheaper and more power efficient, that's going to be pretty compelling. Robert, I don't know if you've followed this closely enough. Do you have any thoughts on this?
It's really about the cooling of these centers. And if you can eliminate some of that heat dissipation and keep that confined, and in a part that actually, it has to at least match the current performance of the server chips they use. And server chips, by and large, are already generally a lot cooler than you're going to have on a desktop part anyway.
Yeah,
they're to say it's more like they're simply not stabler, but they don't clock them as hard, and they run better at those lower clock rates. And that comes back to the cooling side of it, which is probably the main expense in a lot of these centers, short of just the electricity to run everything. But if you can knock that down by even 15%, and that's a lot, that would go a long way toward convincing me something like an ARM chip or lots of ARM chips or Nuvia's latest design. It's really, Intel, AMD both have low power designs, but maybe they're not the ideal thing for server environments. If they really have some sort of black magic in terms of being able to create a capable server part that is measurably more efficient in electricity, that's a huge deal.
Definitely.
Apple's pivot to services, which is an ongoing pivot, has led JP Morgan Chase to estimate that the company's advertising income could quintuple over the next 6 years to $11 billion annually. Apple TV, the App Store, and Safari are all seen as places where Apple could raise its revenue. But will they? Apple has marketed itself as a company that respects privacy, and having an effective advertising program often conflicts with prioritizing user privacy.
Yeah, I mean, they have ads in the App Store right now. That's not terribly controversial. It's a matter of placement, saying like, hey, if somebody's looking for this kind of app or they're on this kind of page of app and you want to place your app on there, that's fine. So they haven't run into problems where they're crossing the line there. But if you start to place ads on the Apple TV interface, that doesn't look very Apple-y. If you start to put ads in Safari somehow, can wade into privacy problems really quick when you're dealing with browsing data. So I'm not sure what kind of assumptions JP Morgan Chase makes, other than to say, well, if Apple made the decision to sell the ads, this is how much they could sell. It's different than them actually making the decision to sell the ads, which is then going to become an investor fight if they don't do it, because they could be perceived as leaving money on the table.
Do you leave the ad settings at default on most of the devices you use? I generally will turn off the saving of specific information. So I end up getting very generic ads, not necessarily related to what I'm looking at, but I'm still fed ads, but they mean less to me than they probably would if I just left all these settings alone.
And it's something that iOS users generally don't think about, because the ad settings are virtually, the privacy settings are pretty tight already on iOS. And those ad settings have to do with the individual applications more often if they're going over the line.
That's something I've been absolutely thrilled about with Android 10. And it has gone through every app on my phone and literally said, hey, you know what? This thing's tracking your location 24/7. Would you like to turn that completely off, or just when the app is running? Or
well, iOS 13 is doing that too. In fact, it's knocking down my door more often than I'd like. Where I'm like, yeah, gosh, fine, yes, dark sky weather app, it's fine wherever I am. But yes, it's better to be erring on the side of making sure that we're aware than the alternative.
Totally, I love this trend.
Twitter made its ban on political ads official. Remember, we said Jack Dorsey had tweeted about this, but devil's in the details on this sort of stuff. The rules are now out. They define political content as content in an advertisement. You can say whatever you want, those different rules for what you say on Twitter, but in a paid advertisement, any content that references a candidate, a political party, an elected or appointed government official, an election, a referendum, a ballot measure, a legislation, regulation, directive, or judicial outcome is going to be considered a political ad, and you're not allowed to put political ads on Twitter. It also bans advertisements that contain references to political content. So in other words, the entire ad isn't about it, but it refers to it, including appeals for votes, solicitations of financial support, and advocacy for or against any of the above listed types of political content. So that just further defines, like, you can't get around the rules by doing this. If you're talking about voting for something and it's clearly political, we're going to ban it. Candidates, parties, governments or officials, political action committees, and certain political nonprofit groups are banned from any advertising altogether. Even if they just, want to sell their used bicycle, no, they're not doing it on Twitter. I'm not sure anyone sells bicycles on Twitter, but an exemption will be given to news organizations to all of these rules if they have 200,000 monthly uniques or more, make their own content, and focus on more than one issue. So they're trying to draw a line that says, we're talking about the Washington Post here. We're not talking about, Joe Blow Pack that started a blog yesterday. An exemption will also be given to cause-based content this is where it gets tricky, to allow ads that educate, raise awareness, and or call for people to take action in connection with civic engagement, economic growth, environmental stewardship, or social equity causes. This last exemption does not allow targeting by zip code or political preference, and it can't reference or be run on behalf of the entities banned from placing political ads like candidates and parties. But that line between saying, hey, I'm just, trying to promote the economy of my hometown, and this is really pushing for a political candidate, is, I think, where Twitter is going to run into any potential controversy.
Man, I mean, this is, first of all, I would like to commend Twitter. The company has obviously put a lot of thought into this, and perhaps that's why this was not rolled out sooner, because there were some decisions that had to be made. That said, this reads as like a terms of service that like no one's going to read, and they're not going to understand necessarily on the other side of it because it's very complicated. And I'm not sure, I think it's a good thing, but if you don't understand how things work, then it sort of works against Twitter, because Twitter is full of a lot of users who would not care to understand what you just explained, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, what's going to happen is somebody's going to put an ad that they're going to claim is an ad that is cause-based, and it's going to be about climate change for a Democratic candidate, or it's going to be about economic growth for a Republican candidate, or it's going to be some other combination there. And it's going to be uncovered that it was placed on behalf of pushing the agenda of someone, and Twitter's going to have a controversy. That's going to happen. There's just no way to get around this fuzzy line that they've drawn.
Right.
But I wonder if that isn't the point where Twitter has said, yeah, but we push the boundary out over there. So if they say the candidate's name, if they say the party's name, if they talk about voting, it's clearly going to get kicked. So they have to be so circumspect that it might not be terribly beneficial for their candidate, even if they are trying to get around the rules. Does this stuff bother you, Robert?
A little bit. John McAfee, who might not be the most stable genius in the world, he had a tweet about a week ago where he said you shouldn't be allowed to use the word news in the title of your organization if at least 80% of that content is vetted or at least verified to be relatively truthful, and you do that for the majority of your broadcast day. And it was just an interesting idea where maybe it is time we take a look at who can call themselves a news organization and have at least something there to help. Because the problem all goes back to, it's just so easy to manipulate what you see and what you do, and to get a point out there that, for devious reasons even. Anybody has access to these networks, and I hate to see it turning into an arms race of who can manipulate them the best. And it's spooky, but at the same point, it's easy enough for me to disconnect and walk away from it all. But then I feel like I'm disengaging from, discussions in the society. So it's a balance.
You can have them in other places.
Without a doubt. Listening to this morning's doings in Congress, corruption's everywhere. And we can point the finger all we want, but hell, most of our elected officials are taking legal bribes from their so-called big-pocketed constituents, and it's in my opinion kind of tragic that it functions that way in this country. It's not a great.
That's a whole separate podcast, right? Yeah.
I hate talking politics, but there you go.
Well, who isn't corrupt, not necessarily anyway, is the modern cord cutter. MoffettNathanson estimates that Hulu has 2.7 million subscribers for its live TV service, putting it at number one just ahead of Sling TV's 2.69 million. YouTube TV is another, estimated to have 1.6 million customers. Hulu will raise the price of its live TV service by $10 per month, from $44.99 US dollars to $54.99. Hulu offers more than 60 channels, including all four major English language broadcast networks in the US, along with the Hulu On Demand service. In a blog post, the company said it's exploring ways to provide additional, more tailored live TV options as well.
Yeah, and since PlayStation Vue announced that it was going away at the end of January, I've been looking back at Sling, Hulu, and YouTube TV, and AT&T TV now as options. And Hulu seems to be the best option for me. YouTube has the best interface right now, and even has a couple more channels that I want. But I love that Hulu is tied into Hulu, right? I'm already in Hulu watching shows that are carried on just the regular on-demand Hulu side. And if I can integrate into that to watch my hockey and other live stuff, I think that's the way I'm going to go. $55 a month. Well, it's not as great as $45 a month, but it's actually cheaper than what I was paying PlayStation Vue, and way cheaper than what I'd end up paying Spectrum. So I think this is decent, and it doesn't surprise me that Hulu is leading the way right now because of what I just said.
I agree.
Yeah.
Hulu also happens to have the last 3 seasons of Archer, where you can't get that pretty much anywhere else. You get the first.
It's always something like that, isn't it?
Netflix or Gated Walls of my favorite content.
I've been watching Cheers on Hulu, which you can get on Netflix and CBS All Access. But again, because I'm already on Hulu watching Good Place and Handmaid's Tale and all this other stuff, I'm like, well, I'll watch it over here. So they kind of if they keep building on that, I think that's going to be successful for Hulu. I hope that this price increase might bring in some more channels, because that is my one complaint about Hulu. There's a couple channels I'd like them to have. But as I always say, if you want to go and decide which of these over-the-top streaming services you might want to get to replace your cable, the best place to go is suppose.tv. You can just put in where you are, what channels are important to you, and it'll lay it all out, including cable providers, so you can compare, apples to apples, and see which one will actually save you money.
More money for Disney.
Yeah, it is. Hulu's definitely going to be a cash cow for Disney, I think. Wikipedia co-founder Jimmy Wales has been slowly launching an alternative to Facebook. It's a news-oriented social network that you can sign up to for free, but you're put on a wait list. So if you want to skip the line and not wait to be asked in, you pay. It doesn't take ads. You're not paying to get rid of ads or anything like that. They just say we're never going to take ads. But you can pay $12.99 a month or $100 a year to help support it. It's kind of like donation for Wikipedia, and it lets you into the social network faster. WT Social has about 78,000 users right now. It's gained about 50,000 since November 6th, so it's growing fairly fast, but doesn't have a lot of people in it yet. It's topic-oriented, uses the community to enforce standards, similar to how Wikipedia works. In fact, anyone can edit or delete content. When you go in, it asks you to pick a bunch of topics you want to follow, and then you can go in and see those and engage and talk to people about them. And if you pay to get in, you can actually vote. You can actually invite other people to join for free as well.
The concept of this is interesting. My first reaction was like, anybody could delete my content. This is insane. It would be horrible, right? Because people are petty on social networks. But if it's more news oriented and less personal news oriented, then maybe that's less of an issue. Wikipedia, sure, you can go in and wreak some havoc, but for the most part, it's pretty self-sufficient. The moderation community in there is really robust. When things get weird, they get fixed quickly. And for the most part, it is like an encyclopedia type thing. It's, well respected. So, if you have under 100,000 users, yes, as you mentioned, this is not an alternative to Facebook. It's apples and oranges. There's just no way. And everybody's always trying to be like, this is the alternative to Facebook because everybody complains about Facebook, but you're all on it. I don't know. I mean, it's an interesting idea. I don't know, Robert. I saw you on Facebook recently saying that you hadn't been on Facebook in a while. So what do you make of WT Social?
Yeah, I have no interest in this per se. What I would like to see though is something where I could literally install it on my NAS device and it could connect to other folks' set up social media networks, but it's 100% private where I can just invite the family or close friends to look at, photos of the kids or the pets or whatever, or make plans for the weekend. And granted, it's nice to have it in a fully open environment where anybody can get in there and take a look, or at least make that a little easier to do the connection. But this sounds, or it's rolling towards something where I personally would just rather have far more control over it myself. And
well, it's unfair to call this Facebook. This is about news. Yeah. This is trying to take a part of Facebook and say, if Facebook news bothers you, try this. This has got Hacker News in it. The Hacker News feed comes into it. And you can
every day.
Have comments about to people about it. So the news feed part of Facebook, the sharing of birthdays and pictures from parties and all of that, not on here. This is just one segment of Facebook, the news segment. And if it succeeds, it'll be amongst people who are like, yeah, I just want a cleaner way to follow what's going on that has a little bit of a social aspect to it where I can discuss things with people in a respectful way.
That's super cool. I look at things like Reddit it used to be a lot more news, or just, wow, you'd see it there first before anywhere else. Now it is, if you follow enough stuff, you're going to see a fire hose of a variety of things. It would be nice to have just a strong focus on actual news and current events and things like that in a hopefully a relatively vetted environment. It's like setting your browser's homepage to the Wikipedia page, and it gives you that this day in history section. And I love that kind of stuff. So
it's very much, you say what you want about Wikipedia. It's actually usually more accurate than most actual encyclopedias. And so they're taking what they've learned there and applying it here. We'll see if it works. Hey, folks, if you want to get all the tech headlines each day in about 5 minutes, be sure to subscribe to dailytechheadlines.com. All right, we had Singles Day just now. We have Black Friday coming up in the U.S. And kind of no matter where you are on the planet, there's some kind of shopping going on. And one of the things people are always looking for a deal on is TVs. So we're always happy to have Robert on to kind of help us figure out what are some good TVs I should be looking for deals on.
There are models out there right now. And Black Friday has now extended into being this month-long event. So you don't have to wait until Black Friday to get the best pricing, at least as far as 2019 models at the lowest prices we've seen all year long. And a couple that jump out to me would be if you're looking more for the high end, it's something that just came out. The TCL 8 series is one of the most interesting new LCD TVs that I've seen in quite a while. I believe this will be one of the very first TVs to incorporate a grid of 20,000+ LEDs as the backlighting system. Micro LED technology that enables an amazing amount of light output from this TV, in addition to having very granular control over that backlight for things like improving contrast in scenes like where you have a space scene with little stars shining on it, where you want the highlights to be nice and bright, but you don't want the black turning gray or glowing in general. TCL's 8 series, it's in 65 and 75-inch panel sizes. It's not cheap. I believe the 8 series 75-inch is about $3,000. It hasn't gone on sale yet. I'm really keeping an eye on that to see what might happen for an actual Black Friday sales event. And currently, I believe, at least in the US, it's only available through Best Buy currently. But that's one that is so high performance, plus the Roku interface, and it's using quantum dot color, which expands the color palette compared to using phosphor enhanced LEDs or anything older than that at this point. Quantum dot and LCD, that's currently the very best color you can get out of one of these screens from any manufacturer. And most manufacturers who are producing decent screens are turning toward that. In the same vein, Samsung's Q90R, which is not quite their most premium model, but one step back. Terrific deals there for 65, 75, and 82-inch screen sizes. The 75 I was keeping an eye on, that is at $2,300 right now, which is about $1,700 off the price. Nice thing about Samsung, they also use the quantum dot technology. That perhaps is a more well-known brand compared to maybe TCL. It has a great set of integrated apps that integrates with all of your gear quite nicely. It does lack support for Dolby Vision. So if you're looking specifically at that one feature, Samsung TVs do HDR10 and HDR10 Plus. That's still an effective format that you'll find from every video distributor out there. So that's not really such a downside on that one. And I like it a lot. And on the value side, just quickly going back to TCL, in addition to that 8 series, they have a 6 series. For 2019, they made a big jump in switching from those phosphor LEDs, which caused an interesting image artifact that once you see it, you cannot unsee it per se. And that had to do with moving objects and say a bright object on the screen moving. You would actually see colored trailed edges that weren't solid or a blurred effect in essence. And by switching the new 6 series also to quantum dot, it eliminates that issue altogether. It improves the color performance, especially with your 4K HDR sources. And that is just a terrific bargain. I believe the 55 is $600 right now, 65, $800. That's about as low end as I would go personally if you're looking for solid performance. Now, as far as LG OLEDs go, the C9 is out there. It incorporates their latest generator, second gen processor from last year. Performance-wise, in terms of the absolute picture quality, the new LG C9 series is not that much different from the C8 series that preceded it last year, other than that they've incorporated a lot of future-looking tech into it, including HDMI 2.1, and I'll get into this in a little bit, but they've also announced some LG OLEDs at CES will feature incorporated ATSC 3 tuners, which for digital over-the-air broadcast, this is moving from the digital 720p 1080i standard dynamic range, standard color, to up to 4 and 8K video streams with HDR. And ATSC3 is also very much you can almost think of it as IP distribution system. It'll enable through connected TVs a back and forth, so you can have a little two-way interaction for maybe services and apps and things like that. But more importantly for me, it'll be just simply having improved color, almost triple the effective bit rate, and it's still going to be free over the air with an appropriate tuner and antenna. So that's just something to keep an eye on. I imagine if LG is announcing this with their 2020 LG OLED TVs, it'll probably be showing up in other manufacturers as well. And then finally, I just want to remind everyone that projectors are freaking cool, especially if you can pick up something that's affordable and you don't mind, and it's not so expensive that you're treating it like this fragile object constantly. A good portable projector starts at less than $500 for 1080p technology. Scales all the way on up to whatever you want to spend on these devices. But a thing to remember about every projector today, they all have HDMI input. Most have powered USB ports. That makes them just perfect for plugging in a streaming stick of anybody's. And having that is not only an upgrade on the cheap, but it can make it very portable then in terms of, hey, I can just simply take this outside and with my internet connection, stream all my favorite shows and content and everything like that right in the backyard. So, and if you are looking for a projector and you don't know what the hell to choose, projectorcentral.com is a wonderful website. They have everything broken out by price and budget and terrific reviews, and they've been around for a long time, and they're just solid. And if you need an antenna, speaking of Black Friday sales, the good folks over at Channel Master have a couple of antennas. They have their $10 antenna. It might be $5 for Black Friday.
Wow.
I don't know. Either way.
That's crazy.
The $10 flat antenna is like, you should just have one of those just in case it works just fine if you live somewhere with good reception. Otherwise, they have their Smart Tenna Plus, which is something I picked up when it first came out for about $90. It's currently half price. And that features an array of different antenna modules. And when you first plug it in, it spends about 5 minutes going through all of them to figure out which of these configurations gives me the best reception. And it generally works pretty well. It's terrific in terms of a flat antenna that you kind of just put it where you want, and then it'll internally figure out the best optimization for it. And for that, I think it's, if you want something a step up from a $10 antenna, that's a good way to go.
Yeah, and it works really well. I use one of those too. Thanks so much, Robert. This is
My
good
pleasure.
stuff for people to be looking out for. Look for the price reductions. Look for the deals on some of that stuff.
Any major manufacturer, if you've been eyeballing one of their TVs, it likely is on sale right now. And overall, I've noticed that if Costco carries that same TV, it's going to be about $50 less.
Well, my mom will be buying my next TV for me, and I'll Venmo her as a Costco customer. Hey, thanks to everybody who participates in our subreddit. You can submit stories and vote on other stories that you see at dailytechnewsshow.reddit.com. You help us make our lineups every day. Thank you in advance. Join in the conversation in our Discord as well, where you can join by linking to a Patreon account at patreon.com/DTNS. We also want to shout out our patrons at our master and grandmaster levels, including Mike McLaughlin, Philip Less, and Frederick Hubner. Also, thanks to Robert Heron. Robert, it's been too long since we've seen you on the show, so thanks so much for being with us, giving us some really good tips on what to buy on Black Friday. Where can people keep up with the rest of your work?
We're still, actually, we've fired up AVXL again. We were on hiatus for about 6 months. And
Woohoo.
yeah, and Patrick Norton and myself are grinding that away weekly. Actually, I think we're recording tomorrow, a brand new episode, so we'll get that done.
Excellent. Although Len wasn't able to be on today, we do want to remind you that today is the last day to get your name on the annual DTNS commemorative poster. There are only 4 slots left. In fact, there might only be 3 slots left to have your name written into the credits. So act now. Head on over to lenperaltastore.com. And of course, you're also got a chance to get some of Len's art mailed to you. You have to give us your address, obviously, to have it mailed to you. But sign up at patreon.com/DTNS with that address by November 28th and get a holiday card with Len Peralta's art on it. We have that and other Patreon rewards at patreon.com/DTNS.
And if you have feedback for us, our email address is feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com. We're also live Monday through Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern. That's 21:30 UTC. And you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live.
Back Monday with an all-new show. Talk to you then.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Good night.
Woo! That was a jam-packed show.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
You know,
stuff.
I want to hang out all day, but I can't.
No, I know.
So I gotta bounce.
All right.
But I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend. And Robert Heron, it was a real pleasure. I hope to see you at CES.
Oh, me too. Reminding self, I need to finish my registration. I just got that reminder email.
And, you know, Tom and Roger walked me through it the other day because I was like, yeah, I did it, but I had done it wrong. So it's a whole thing. All right. Bye, everybody.
See you, Sarah.
Bye-bye,
Have a good
Sarah.
weekend. All right, twitch.tv, showbot.tv/DTNS for suggested titles. One of them is Robert Heron, TV Whisperer.
I like that.
Someone also liked John McAfee, Stable Genius. Painting on a coat of armed ships. That Chrome's gonna get you. Google pits their own Chrome. Apple says no vaping for you. I actually like Robert Heron, TV Whisperer. I think that was great.
Done.
Excellent.
You know, I didn't mention Vizio, but they have some great sets too. And they also have that dual support or universal support for all the HDR formats out there. That, if you have to point at Samsung and say one thing, it's that they don't have Dolby Vision support.
Does it matter much if you're on HDR10 instead of Dolby Vision, or is it a matter of taste?
I mean, there are technical differences between the two formats, but generally, I have found that the video quality of Dolby Vision, especially on an appropriate TV that can do exceptionally wide dynamic range, excellent contrast, it can look better. It's not night and day, but especially in scenes that transition a lot between bright and dark, that's one instance of where Dolby Vision does much better, and something HDR10 does now too. But in general, there's also a bitrate a bit depth difference between the two formats. That might be harder to actually see depending on how it's encoded and the source material and things like that. But
so, I mean,
that's one thing to keep in mind.
If it were up to you, are you just sort of leaning toward the Dolby Vision?
Oh no! If I had a choice, I'm always going to pick Dolby Vision. I absolutely love what they did there in terms of.
But you don't cry if you only have HDR10.
No, and the TV I look at the most has HDR10 only, and it doesn't really restrict me from any HDR wide color palette viewing from any of the major providers. I believe you can now get Dolby Vision streams from Amazon and probably a few others now, but it's also not as widely deployed. When it comes to buying discs, I really do want the Dolby Vision one if I have a choice, but in the end, I'm just happy to see us with these formats. And even more importantly, that move to ATSC3 might finally get the last of these 720p stations off the air, or at least transitioned up. I am sick of looking at 720p sports broadcasts on 4K, 8K screens. That's just, it doesn't look good, and it never did. And they need to step up.
Thanks to Dark Knight 27 US, who submitted the title we're using for DTNS. We also had to pick a GDI title. I like Chiseled and Chill.
It's Uno, you know. You
Don't Have to Be Naked is another good one.
But
yeah, I like Chiseled and Chill. Do you like that one, Roger?
Sure.
All right.
Done.
Not chilled, just chill. I know she wrote chilled.
Oh, got it. So I'll just got it.
I'm putting it in line 75 for you. And that one was submitted by Zoe Brings Bacon. Always bringing the good headlines along with the bacon.
Bacon.
Oh, T-Land Zero pointed out too that you apparently can get Dolby Vision from Disney Plus, Vudu, and Netflix as well. And
yeah, Disney Plus is launched pretty strong technologically speaking, as far as like 4K and HDR.
Just working on an OLED, I think 2 nights ago, and we were testing that specifically with Dolby Vision from Netflix, and yeah, it looked glorious.
Do you have? Did you get Disney Plus or sign up for Disney Plus?
Oh hell no! I'm trying to reduce the number of services that I'm actually subscribed to. I pay for YouTube Premium. I'm sick of commercials there, so I finally that's it. Give me YouTube Premium. No more commercials. Now they're all integrated within the programming itself. And what else? I pay for Netflix just because I need that 15 megabit stream for 4K testing, things like that. But otherwise, no. I'm a huge fan still and always of a disc, simply for the bit rate and the absolute quality. And the bigger the screen gets, if you're going to get a 75-inch TV and you start looking at broadcast content, you're going to see every artifact and compression, squiggly, every little problem with the video you look at. And streaming generally doesn't look that great, blown way the hell up. And you compare that directly to even a 1080p Blu-ray compared to most 4K streams. And when you get into the 4K Blu-rays, that is just pure eye candy.
But can most people notice? I mean, I know you notice.
No.
You look at this stuff all the time.
Take that Game of Thrones episode with that dark scene they had that everyone went crazy about because of all the compression artifacts. And that is a relatively...
But I didn't see any of those compression artifacts people were talking about. So I wonder if it had to do with their ISP more than the actual stream. You know what I'm saying?
It could have very likely been throttling based on just demand. That happens as well. But not
throttling, but in other words, more people on your node of your cable service were demanding Game of Thrones, and therefore not everybody got all the bandwidth, right?
And that's exactly. And it's also more subtle, but the compression schemes used by all of these distributors generally are whacking color above most other things. So if you want the richest color experience from your brand new TV, nothing's going to beat that disc. And 15 megabit a 15 megabit Netflix stream in HDR looks fantastic. However, 100 megabit stream coming off of a disc player is just like.
Well, yeah, no, there's no argument that it's better. No argument at all. And I know there are people that matters. But I guess what I'm getting at is I see people saying, and therefore you shouldn't stream. And it's like, oh, come on, it's not that much worse. Most people can't even tell the difference.
No, that's very true. And this is also assuming the display device is set up right. You're in an appropriate viewing environment.
Right.
If the lights are on in a bright room, it's all about just how much light and color can you dump out of that screen. It's not about accurate viewing at that point.
Yeah, I get a little bugged when somebody who hasn't calibrated their TV is complaining about kind of fine-tuned things like bit depth. I'm like, can you really see it? Or are you just pretending like you can see it?
I have a brand new disc courtesy of Mr. Patrick Norton, the Spears and Munsell 4K HDR benchmark disc that just came out. That was all. If there is a disc that contains well-known content, it's that one. Great documentation. It has your synthetic patterns, but they also did every bit of video recording on there with 8K red cameras that were all transcoded down to 4K for all the HDR samples and that they show. So I'm just starting to dig into that now, and I don't think that disc is necessarily something everyone should run out and buy. It's pretty technical, and it's hard to make adjustments on a modern TV using just a disc like that. But it's good for just checking things out. And like I said, the known content part of it, it's like, okay, you can be very sure that every pixel and every code word in this video image has been gone over by a few people to be right on the money. So in terms of having something well produced to look at and do comparisons,
if you want to start complaining about that stuff, you got to hire Robert to come calibrate your TV.
Yeah, we'll sit around. I'll make the picture look better. And I'll be honest with you, every TV I talked about today, probably right out of the box. And this is something I came across when I did reviews for publications versus looking at what comes out of box stores. The stuff we were sent from the company directly often was handpicked and exceptionally well. And it was like, oh, this thing's barely out of whack. A couple minor adjustments. Perfect.
Right, because they can't predict what room it'll be in, right?
No, but when I see the exact same model from a store and we unbox it and take it out, and I'm like, wow, this didn't look the same as the one that was sent to me by vendor directly. And it can be a very different experience. And so that's why I come to appreciate the organizations like ratings.com who can actually, they have a budget. They buy every TV right from a big box store. And that's really the only way you should do it. And granted, that's not a cheap way to do it, but it's the only way to really get the truth in terms of what the customers are receiving and what they're seeing.
Lord Leon 77 says, I have that disc, did some general tweaking on my 82-inch. Lord Leon gets to complain about bit depth. That'll show you the problems of your TV.
So what are you using right now in terms of hardware for TV calibration? Like in terms of like the
I still use the Portrait Displays Calman software, and that was just updated with a brand new version, which finally, they have these workflows for different scenarios and brands and things like that, depending on what you're trying to get done. They've now reorganized a lot of that. So it's just easier to drill down to, oh, you're working on a Samsung TV with this particular feature. Let's run through this workflow. Meter wise, I use something called a Klein K10A. It's a high-end meter. It's probably in terms of what it is for the money, one of the very best out there. And that specifically is a filter-based product that allows me to do fast measurements and also very low light measurements. So when you get into the very darkest parts of a color or a shade of gray, it's not spending 30 seconds to a minute per reading. It's banging through it at like 5 or 10 per second. That's awesome. But in essence, it's kind of a dumb meter. It's not aware of the light characteristics of a backlight system, like going between, say, OLED and LED, or back in the day, it would be, fluorescent tubes or things like that. You need what they call a spectroradiometer, something that is literally a photon counter to precisely measure your primaries and secondaries and then create a correction matrix. And I do that for every TV I work on. I just don't assume that the LED TV preset built into my meter is going to give me accurate results. It might be in the ballpark, but generally, like I said, it's a raw device that it needs to be told of exactly what the primaries are. Then it can create that correction matrix. Then you can run it It then has the speed of a
Oh,
spectrophotometer.
so you use a spectrometer to basically get your.
So the 1 meter is a spectrophotometer, and it's dumb but fast. And the other one's the spectroradiometer, which is stupid accurate but really slow. And there's a great function built into the software, which they've just revamped that I'm testing right now.
So you
to create those profiles.
You input the data from both devices into the CalMan software, and it gives you.
For a particular TV, it cycles through red, blue, green, white, and those colors flash up on the screen, and you ideally measure both on the same exact spot. And the radiometer does its measurements, and then the same thing gets read by the photometer, and then it creates this NIST standardized correction matrix that's well known. But like I said, my new software has updated that functionality a bit, and I am itching to see how well it works. And then the other thing that's nice about the software I use too, a lot of TVs nowadays you can tie into them directly over a network. And instead of using a remote control and 50 menus deep trying to find some arcane setting, I can literally click through a menu that's displayed on my computer software. And for me, the little things like that can be fantastic.
What was the name of that disc that you were mentioning earlier again? Just remind people.
The Spears and Munsell, I think it's the UHD 4K benchmark disc.
Spears and, how do you spell Munsell?
MUNSIL. SIL. I remember it because I used to have to grab it for you.
I want to say it's Stacy Spears and Don Munsell. Arguably gods in the industry in terms of knowledge and application, and they're the people who basically can look at a test pattern and tell you intrinsically what's wrong with it. I mean, they are awesome. They've done a lot. They've done a lot to help the whole industry. And having source material like this, the UHD HDR benchmark, hand forged.
Awesome. Well, we're going to wrap it up here for Good Day Internet. Thanks to Lion Jim, who's subscribed with Twitch Prime now for 7 months on a 6-month streak, and says Daily Bacon News Show. Thanks to Robert Heron. Always so much good information, man. Thank you so much for sharing it with us.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you, guys.
And thanks again to Sarah Lane and all of you. Please have a good day.
Have a good day.